welcome to MentorMe Memorable Moments. I am your host, Tracy Everette, and we are here live in the studio at WLVS Listen Vision Radio. Tonight is our mental health program, and we've got our Dr. Michelle, registered naturopath doctor, with us, and also Felicia Jamison, our certified healing coach, with us. So they've got their separate segments, and we're definitely going to be able to hear them both tonight. But I want to say welcome to 150 nations and all 50 states.
Hello.
This is no do-over. This is live.
Yeah. Hello out there.
So, Dr. Michelle, we're looking forward to it because we've been talking on social media about autism, and it's out there. For some reason, it has become more prominent today than it has in the years past. So You're going to talk to us about it, and you also brought a guest with you. So let me go ahead and turn this segment over to you.
Okay, good. Yeah, autism is a subject to be talked about. Now, we're not going to go real deep with autism, but we're going to just do a little table talk about autism. Of course, if very topical conversation here, and of course, if your child is autism, have the symptoms of autism, of course, you go and you consult with your physician so that he or she may get the help that they need. Okay. I met a beautiful young woman not so long ago. Her name is Shanice. And we had this wonderful conversation, which led into autism, And I wanted to bring her on because I was very intrigued and very engaging in her conversation. She has a personal testimony about autism, and she's done some study. She's a graduate of University of Maryland, and she has a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. And so she did her little study on autism, and I'm very happy to bring her on as our guest. So hello, Shanice.
Welcome, Shanice.
Hello.
Okay, so again, I'm really interested in the conversation that we had about autism, and I really would like for you to, share your personal experience about autism, if you will.
Okay, so what got me interested in autism was my own story, and because I do have a family member who was diagnosed with autism. When it comes to me, when I was younger, I was a different kid. I just didn't talk. I just didn't talk to family members. When I went to school, I just didn't talk. So the teacher, the principals, and all the people at the school eventually referred my mother to a doctor. They thought that something might be wrong, specifically autism, because that is a social disorder.
Right.
So my mother fought against it. She had dealt with this, something similar to this, because my sister had a speech impediment.
Yeah.
And they tried to put her in special education, but my mother just put her into speech therapy, and she was fine. So my mother did the same thing with me. She said, no, keep her in the classroom. I feel that there's nothing wrong with my daughter. I don't think that it's that serious. Just keep her in the classroom. And eventually I grew out of it, so they say.
Right.
My cousin is actually diagnosed with autism. He received treatment as if he was autism.
Right.
And it's actually a decrease in his behavior ever since his diagnosis.
Okay.
So that's what led me to do further research on autism. And I just found out that autism isn't exactly what they give. Autism isn't the stigma of what it is, I guess, to say. Autism is a social disorder, and it basically comes about when they notice that a child isn't developing socially. So that means they're not making eye contact, they're not responding to emotional cues, meaning you're crying and they're just, blank face, they're stoic.
Right. Not being able to interact with other people.
Right. But the thing that is, I guess, kind of funny is the fact that there is no known cause. There is no cure.
Right.
The only thing that they treat is the irritability that comes with the child having autism. The aggressive behavior, the frustration. They put the kids on antipsychotics to treat the frustration of being autistic.
Right.
So they treat these kids like they're special, but really there's nothing other that they can recommend. So I just feel that maybe autism can be handled differently.
Well, there are a collective symptoms that they're pretty much basing, if you will, autism on, right? Okay, which makes it an autistic disorder now.
So
right?
what are some of the symptoms?
Well, it was just like she said, trouble with the ability to communicate with others, trouble understanding, and because they're not able to express themselves and communicate with other people, they have problems with their words through gestures and body language and, things like that, facial expression and touch. Just like Shani said, they're almost emotional less. They have this, they're undeveloped in their motor skills, if you will. Right?
And communicative skills.
Right, and communicative skills.
So how early
they're
on
social.
can this be diagnosed or detected? What would cause a parent to be concerned enough to say, I need to have my child tested?
When you go to the doctor, they often ask you, and you say that you have concerns. They bring about, is she making eye contact when you talk to her? Is she responding? When you cry, what does she do? Does she talk to others? Does she interact with other kids? Does she interact with other adults? Does she cry all the time? Things like that.
So then it's a child who is preschool, school age, or can it be a child that's
Before
younger
3.
than?
Before
3
yeah,
years
it could be
old.
before 3 years old.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, before 3 years old.
Okay.
So these children have a social, they have problems with social interaction.
Okay, because you had mentioned that, I guess what they noticed was that you weren't communicative. Okay, and that you were, in my opinion, shy. So how can I tell?
I'm still shy.
I'm just trying to figure out how can a parent or a teacher say, well, no, this child is just a wallflower or shy,
right,
as opposed to this child is autistic. I mean, that's a huge jump.
It is.
Yeah, well, because nowadays it's a thing now. More people have knowledge that this thing exists, so they're very quick to call it out. They're very quick to say, oh, maybe she's autistic. If the child isn't normal, maybe she's autistic. And then it scares parents, and then they jump and say, okay, my child is autistic. Something's wrong. And then they go to the doctor. They say, okay, yeah, maybe she is.
Okay.
And then there you go. You're diagnosed.
And so were you diagnosed?
I wasn't diagnosed. It was just recommended to my mom that you should probably take her to a doctor. Because I just wasn't, and I remember being in preschool, and the reason why I cried is because I just didn't want to be there. I just wanted to go home.
Right.
I didn't want to talk to anybody because I was like, I'm not going to be here long. Okay, I'm going home. I knew that, and so. And I don't really remember how I interacted with my family. My family tells me that I cried with anyone. I just wanted to be with my mom. But now that I have a daughter, she's the same way. She's a little bit more outgoing. She's a little bit more social, but she's not staying anywhere where I'm not either.
All right.
Yeah.
So and then the thing with the spectrum of autism, just recently they took a bunch of disorders and labeled it all as autism. They did that in 2013. So now the spectrum is so wide that anyone can really be autistic. You could take symptoms from any child and say, oh, she might be a little autistic.
Well, I can see what ADD, ADHD, how they could say that. They can lay that claim there because that child is all over the place. And I can say that because I had that kind of child all over the place. Well, yeah, I can see that. So then would you classify these as mislabeling, misdiagnosed?
Yeah, I don't negate the fact that there are some children with some mental disorders. I study psychology. Mental disorders, mental health is real. But I do think that with autism, we've gotten a little bit out of control. With the diagnosing, and sometimes some children just need a little bit more work. You can't just say,
Exactly.
just because my child doesn't make eye contact, that she might be autistic. My daughter was the same way. She's still the same way. When she tells stories, she's all up in here with it. She's looking, and I was scared for a little bit. So I used to say, look here, please
Right.
look here. So, but once I say, Sanaya, when you're talking to people, make eye contact. Tell her that, and she does it. She keeps on it. She keeps the cue. So I think that some of the symptoms can be eradicated differently. You don't have to go through the whole go to a medical professional and deal with the children now believing that something is wrong with them, because that's what my cousin does. Ever since he got diagnosed, now when he does things and we say, why do you do it, he goes, I don't know, I'm crazy.
Okay. Right.
But then you have these other symptoms like the erratic, rigid, repetitive behavior.
And that's another thing. My cousin, he does that. He can watch one 30-minute show the entire day, over and over and over. But my daughter's the same way. If she likes the show, she'll watch it.
That's what I
I'm
would
the
think.
same way. I like the Titanic. I can watch it 3 hours. I can sit there and replay it. I can do it. It's they just some people just have the personality where they stick to what they know. That's their comfort zone. I'm not a risk taker. So I don't want to try new foods. I just paid for it. I want to eat good. So I'm gonna stick to what I usually get.
Exactly.
And I don't want to watch a new show. Why? I'm entertained by this one. Some people, not all people are risky. Not all people are outgoing. I'm very introverted. I don't have many friends. I keep my circle small.
Okay.
I don't just go out and just say, hey, how you doing to everyone. I'm polite, of course, but that doesn't mean that I should be diagnosed with a mental disorder. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me, but by medical standards, something may be.
Yeah. Well, I looked up some of the autistic disorders, and come to find out that there are several.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. One of them being the Asperger syndrome. You know about that one? Where the children don't have a problem with the language, but they tend to score really high and above average than the rest of the kids, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. Children with Asperger's, people with Asperger's I just watched a special on it, actually. They appear to be some of the most gifted people.
Yes.
They're the ones that can read a book and then relay it all back to you like it's nothing. So I don't know how, but the fact is that they still I guess show some social disorders. They're not outgoing, they're not talkative. They would rather be in their books. You give them a task, they would rather do it and complete it before socializing with you.
Right, they're into what they're doing.
So what about the autism that prefers a certain place, a certain seating, a certain toy, things like that? And if you were to move that, then you're breaking some type of repetition or some type of comfort zone.
That goes into a compulsive disorder, sort of like obsessive compulsive disorder, where it's sort of like when you're a neat freak and everything has to be clean before you have to have your bed made when you come home. You can't come home to a restful bed. That's sort of what compulsive disorder is defined as. But when it's obsessive to the point where it interacts with your daily life, then it's a problem. When you're standing there flicking the lights off and on, then that's a problem. But having things in a certain way, that's just some people.
Right.
There are, now, I'm not saying that there's not people that are doing this. But
exactly.
As long as it doesn't interfere with your daily functioning, as long as the kid is being able to pay attention and learn, I don't see why you can't just try and work with it.
So are there some children that are just pushed through the system, whatever system that is, into adulthood and having never been diagnosed, only to find out in their adulthood that there's something just not right?
Yeah, I can agree with that because some parents aren't really conscious.
Right.
Some parents are too liberal
Mm-hmm.
to where they're like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with my child.
Right.
And then they're not getting the help that they need because sometimes, and like I said, sometimes there are the kids that do need a little extra,
Right.
a little extra work. And when you are too liberal and you're just completely not with it,
yes.
yeah, then
So-
you can have some effect.
So would that be the persuasive developmental disorder? Okay, so that's that PDD.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the one that's known as an A-type
Right.
autism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they said that these children have some autism behaviors, but they don't fit into the categories.
Oh, that means that they're not on the spectrum,
They're not on the spectrum.
but they have that would
But
be
they
every
display.
kid.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
That would be every other kid.
Exactly. And then, of course, the childhood disintegrative disorder. These children develop normally at least 2 years, and then some or most of some of the communication skills.
They start to
Yeah,
digress.
they start to digress.
Yeah.
The social skills. So they say that's a more extreme.
Yeah,
disorder.
that is. I think that is the disorder that we need to pay attention to. The kids
Right.
that are developing, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they just stop.
Right.
Then something's wrong. Then we need to get it checked out. What's going on in the home? Is everything okay? What's your diet like?
Right.
Everything.
Yeah.
So then, are you saying that diet, environment, probably what they do on a day-to-day basis is a factor with autism? Okay, and
Absolutely.
so I heard you say earlier
Absolutely.
that you, and I'm just gonna say it, misdiagnosed
Yeah.
you as being an autistic child when in fact you weren't. And the more you mainstreamed or remained in that classroom, the more you came out of it. Okay, so are there some kids or some forms and types of autism where you can just come out of it?
Well, they say that in most cases of autism, you kind of grow to cope with it.
Right.
Okay.
They
Right.
say that it's prevalent in children years, but as an adult, you're completely functional.
Yeah. There are
So,
survivors.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what's so interesting that I found that they said autism runs in the family.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Well, all mental disorders are,
Yeah, but
you can be passed down. All of them.
yeah.
So is it genetic or is it behavior?
Yeah, that's the
Predisposition.
that is the psychologist, sociologist
yeah.
argument. That's the first argument you learn: nature versus nurture.
Right. Exactly.
Was it always in you, or did
Right.
something happen
right.
for this to happen to you?
Right. And
Nobody, you can't. It's
don't know.
it's psychologists on both ends that can argue both.
that's right.
You never know.
Yeah, because researchers, they say it's a combination of the genes, you know, predisposition, specifically from the older parents.
Okay.
Right.
Well, every parent then
The
would be
age,
an older parent.
Right.
with the advanced parents,
Uh-huh.
as they put it, the mother and the father, you know. So, you know, pregnant mothers, you know, children are exposed when they're exposed to certain drugs and certain chemicals.
Vaccines.
That's right. A likelihood of autistic. There are risk factors when it comes to alcohol and
Drugs.
diabetes,
Illegal and prescribed.
being obese. You know, during pregnancy. You know, those cause risk factors for these autism kids. And I heard of a lack of a certain enzyme,
Okay.
you know, and or I guess the mother or the child suffering with rubella, the German measles.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't
Yeah.
heard that in a long time. German measles. Okay,
But they
so-
don't have enough evidence. They don't have enough evidence where they say that through the vaccine,
Right.
right, that caused. They don't have enough evidence. thoughts on that one. So.
That sounds like another show.
That
Yeah,
is,
I was just about to say that. I was
That's
just
another
about to
show.
get
We're
into
gonna bring you
that.
back for that
yeah,
one.
that's another show.
But we're going to wrap this one up. So where can parents go and adults go if they think that they may have those types of temperaments for autism?
Well, they probably need to go to their physician.
First off.
Yeah, you know, get to know, educate yourself, right? I would think.
I think that's the best thing you can do. We have access to education these days. We have access to knowledge. I know Google can sometimes make
Learn
you
your
feel
child.
like you might
Yeah.
learn some things
yourself.
Yeah.
You go to the doctor, like, listen, this is what I have.
Yeah.
Right.
But
get treatment as early as possible.
yeah,
You know, get to learn your child.
Yeah, it's always best to know than not know. If
Okay.
you feel like,
Absolutely.
if you honestly feel, and don't ignore a mother's intuition.
Right.
You're
Early
given
intuition.
that
Right.
gift. If you can look at your child and know that something's wrong, don't let nobody tell you
That's
Right.
right.
that something is wrong with your child.
That's
If
right.
you honestly
Not
feel
even your
like,
spouse.
Not even your spouse.
Okay.
Because early intervention is the key.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this was Dr. Michelle and Shawnice talking about autism and I guess navigating autism, you know,
Yeah.
determine the types of autism out
Yeah.
there. But you mentioned that they are taking a lot of the disorders and wrapping them up, packaging
Into
them
one.
and saying they're an element of autism. So
Yes.
there are places that you can go to determine this, and what we recommend, highly recommend, is that you start with your physician,
Yes.
that pediatrician or your family doctor, and have your family history ready for discussion as
Exactly.
well. Go back there and find out who's had what, and you just never know.
Do
you
some
just
history.
never know.
That's right.
Oh yeah, you know what? I would even say if you can afford to swab and mail that DNA in to get
Right.
that, yeah,
Good for you.
find out what's
Absolutely.
going on in this body because
That's
it
right.
belongs to you and you got to take good care of
That's
it.
exactly
So
right.
this closes out this segment, and I do thank you for joining us, and I want you back. I do. I want you back. Yeah, because we have to have that vaccine discussion. But we're going to go to our next segment now with Felicia Jamison, our certified healing coach, and let's talk with Felicia Jamison.
Good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk with Felicia Jamison. And tonight we're going to be talking about overcoming mental fear. Fear is something that can paralyze you and lock in all of your dreams, your visions, your hopes. And so tonight we want to talk about how to unlock that, how to remove that block of fear. And tonight we have Willie Hodges on set with us.
Thank you.
Willie is the director of Miko Media, and he recently had a film, There's My Angel, that premiered here in Durham and at a theater in Raleigh. And I actually went to see it and was just overjoyed with what I saw. And Willie and I know each other from way back when Willie was filming church services, worship services, and even my dance ministry. And so that night I went to the theater and I said, no, I'm going big, no diet. I had my popcorn, my Sprite, my peanut M&Ms, everything, and just sat back and took in that movie. And I was so impressed with the movie. And the key thing that came up in my heart and why I wanted to interview you to talk about it is, what fears did you have? What you could have stayed in fear and never produced that. But now you have a movie that has premiered here in the Carolinas, that has blessed so many people. It was actually sellouts. So I remember when it was the second premiere of it, I said, no, I'm getting my ticket now. So, Willie, I want you to talk to us tonight about maybe the roadblocks or the fears that you may have had that could have been in the way of you producing this movie. Just begin to share with us your journey to produce There's My Angel.
Well, thank you, Felicia, and thank you for inviting me here, spend this time, and welcome to your audience and all that good stuff. The journey for me began years ago. It began before I even started on the film, actually.
Okay.
And when I was a young boy, it all began from rejection. That's when my journey began. And when I was a little kid, my best friend was actually two fingers. I'm going to move this for a moment. But my two fingers actually was almost like my journeyman, where I would take my two fingers and I'd walk, and I'd walk, and I'd walk.
So that was just a little visual demonstration
to
your
visual demonstration.
self.
So, we was poor. I was staying with my great aunt, and we didn't have anything. She was handicapped at that time, and so we didn't have air conditioner. We just didn't have anything that a young family should have. And at nighttime and in the morning, I just take that journey. And being that we were so poor, I was kind of immobilized, or even traumatized by fear because of my mother, who was her niece, rejecting me. My mother's last name was Collins. Her maiden name was Hodges. And so it was 10 of us. So 9 brothers and sisters, their all name was Collins. But there's one little boy that's in the middle. For some reason, he was a mistake or something because his name was Hodges. So I was never told why my name was Hodges. Even to this day, I still don't know why I was still on one named Hodges. So that, plus not having any money, plus one of the things that I like to also mention, that, my aunt that I was living with, I watched her have to do some things to take care of me, like gamble. So her occupation every weekend was gambling to take care of me. I was fearful for her in that environment. That's how she made her living, to take care of me. But I had 9 brothers and sisters that was living a different type of life. And so at that point, rejection stepped in, anxiety, oppression, depression, all his cousins start coming in.
So it's like the rejection was a gateway, like a door that opened, and
It was.
all these other, the fear, everything started coming in.
Well, I had one of the first cousins of rejections that show up that I could not handle. I couldn't manage that well. And that was rejection big brother. I call it first cousin, but actually it's rejection big brother, fear. When fear showed up, it was a monster. It was immobilizing. It affected me physically. It affected me socially. It affected me emotionally. And I wasn't a Christian as a young kid, so I can't say it affected me spiritually. But all I do know that it had a vice grip on me as a person, that everything that I did reflected my fear for who I was. And the worst time and my worst experience I ever had in life was when I got my report card.
Wow.
And someone said, when you got the report card, was you a dumb kid? No, I wasn't a dumb kid. When I got the report card, what usually happens when your parents get your report card? They have to take an ink pen and they have to sign their signature, where she couldn't write.
Wow.
So I was totally embarrassed by that. She couldn't write, so I wasn't ashamed that that had bad grades. I didn't have bad grades. I always intelligent, smart kid, but she couldn't write. So all those things brought in.
So it looks like every turn, every place, there was a rejection, there was shame, there was fear, there was an embarrassment, there was poverty, there was growing up in a house without all the things
and she was
needed.
beaten. She was beaten on weekends by boyfriends. So during the weekend, I had to sit there and watch her get beat. And I'd run out of the house, and that built the fear more. But then I began to dislike my mother for putting me in that environment. Situation. And why did you put me in this environment? But then she put me in that environment now because I understand later on in life she would give me the greatest gift she could have ever gave me outside of birthing me into this world. One day I went to her home, high on cocaine, full of weed, alcohol, had my girlfriend on my shoulder, and she told me I could not come in our house with that beard. I hadn't seen her in 2 years. Wow. I could not come to our house house.
So stop for 1 second. So you hadn't seen your mom for 2 years?
Yes, I hadn't seen her for 2 years.
So you just totally disconnected?
I did. I disconnected because I was still in that struggle, and fear still had that vice grip on me.
So from the fear and the pain, there was the alcohol, the drug.
Yes.
So you were masking, medicating the pain.
Yes.
And then disconnecting from what you saw as the reason for the rejection, which was your mom.
Yes. And all of that brought me to a book that I'm writing right now.
Okay.
And that book is that it's just as bad to tell someone that you love them and you don't love them. It's just as bad to love them and never tell them.
So it sounds like from all of the rejection and the pain, I thought that your preparation was when I knew you from filming church services and filming me during worship dance services, but this journey to get you doing film on the big screen started back as a young boy because of your pain. That was your preparation.
That was my preparation because in the film business, remember, I had all my experience was in television. My experience was not in film, even though I had worked on some minor short films before. But this is my first feature major film with people, with nobody had any experience in acting on a film set. We only had...
So stop. So what I saw that I was so impressed with, those actors had no experience?
They had zero experience on a film set. And out of a crew of about 30, we only had 4 people that ever worked on a film before, ever. Wow. And we was doing a feature film. It cost a lot of money. And
so let's stop. So you had all these fears. You had all of this going on in your life.
Yes.
And now you're producing films for the big screen. But can you share? I want to talk more about you had a lot of responsibilities. You had to ensure the actors and do all these things. But before you got to that point, can you think of 1 or 2 things that made you push past your fears and your rejection and how you saw yourself to be who we're looking at today?
Well, it's an interesting question. And my answer would always be that once you've been bound by fear, you recognize it. And you can see it coming a mile away. You know that joker. You know everything about fear because the symptoms are unbelievable. And when I see fear coming in any magnitude, I don't care what kind of mask it's got on it, I can pick that joker up.
Okay.
I don't care how it's clothed.
Right.
I can tell that joker if he's a pin in the land of millions, I can recognize that joker. Why? Because he's took up residence in this
inside
body.
of you.
He's been there before, and so as soon as that begin to enter any kind of perceptions, it don't have to be fear, just the perception of fear
the
itself.
Sensation, mental images, anything that looks like fear to you.
Yes.
What is it that you do?
Well, what I do is, some people say I reject the invitation. I don't just reject the invitation. I don't just turn my back to the invitation. I hesitate. I take a deep breath, and I realize at that moment, I go back and I find that one thing that I've survived. And I think about what it took for me to survive that. Then I say, now, in my process of surviving that, that pain was there. That pain was there. And when I look at that pain and I confront that pain in the middle picture of that pain, I say to myself, just a simple word, Miss Felicia, no. Now see, here's the deal. When you say no, it don't stop it. It don't stop it because you say no. Because it still tries to come up on you. So what I do when it still try to have access, they come up on me to engage me, I don't just turn away from it. I confront it. I have to prepare physically first. Because if the devil can attack my physical body, then I'm going to give in to that fear.
Right.
I have to prepare mentally first. Because if the devil can attack my mind, then it's no way in the world that I can handle that fear.
Right.
So I keep myself in good shape. I eat good. I work out like I did this morning. I work out. I keep myself strong. I read a lot. I prepare my mind, not only from scripture, but I prepare my mind socially.
Wonderful.
I make sure that I rest. Now, all these things are important.
So see, what you're saying, it's like building blocks.
Yes.
The whole time you were talking, I was like, okay, so when that comes, you know, I recognize you. I confront you. And then you start to pull out, I call it what's in your arsenal.
Yes.
Your past faith victories. And you start to build up around you the strength that you need.
Yes.
It's fabulous. So that's your key to how you start blocking that fear.
I build an offensive position. Most people try to run. You can't outrun fear. There's no way in the world you can outrun fear. Right. It's pursuing you. But what you can do to that joker, you can put brakes on it, and you can take the offensive position and you begin to push it.
Willie, I know so strongly what you're saying because you know I authored a book, and actually one of the writings in the book is called No, Not Today. And I tell people as I wrote that section in my book that you have to give the devil, fear, whatever, a strong no.
Yes.
And you have to make up in your mind, I'm going to think different, I'm going to feel different. I write about how I just say, no, not today. Today is not that day. I'm not thinking that today. I'm not feeling that today. So it sounds like we have a similar vibe with that. I like that. So you have your building blocks of what you do. And so share, I want you to go into what Miko Media does. I know you have the Gateway of Hope. Do you want to talk about that with us?
Well, the Gateway of Hope is, you know, being a young kid in my experiences, I have this thing. The film was about this young boy. God, I'll say I don't have no thing. God has appointed me to tell stories about kids and young people that's been locked by fear, been immobilized by fear, and that hopelessness. That's the key. Hopelessness is fear on steroids.
Yes.
To me. Hopelessness is fear on steroids. You never want to find yourself in that position, because if you're in a hopeless position, God will have to send somebody to get you out.
And he can and he will.
And he can and he will. Because it's hard for you to get out of a hopeless position by yourself. Some people may, but most of us don't.
Right.
God will have to send somebody. There are times in the Bible where God sent prophets to give words to kings and queens to make things happen. But hopelessness, God will have to send an angelic being, or he'll have to influence someone to come across your path to grab your hand and walk you out of that thing, man.
Yes.
Because I've been there before.
And see, that's your nonprofit. I also have a nonprofit, American Life Caribbean Mission, and I work with kids in the inner city in Kingston, Jamaica. And long of the story short with that, some of the work that I've done there, there's one individual who's become like a son to me, and he says to me, I wake up, I think of you leading me to Christ, helping me find a job, and I say, my whole life changed since I met that lady.
Wow.
He said, Mommy, and he says, Mommy, nothing in my life the same since me meet you. Nothing. And I learned from that the simplest things that we do, whether we have a summit for teens or youth or whatever, we can be that person that God sends to bring them out of that fear. So once I've had rejection as well. So once we've had that rejection and once we've had fear, I love the fact that we can put our hand out to bring that next person out. And I want to work with you in that gateway of hope and do something with those teens. That would be fabulous. So the other things that you do, you have helped churches with their media projects. Could you share a little bit about the other things that you're doing?
Yeah, the Miko Media Consulting is a company that I felt like when I was coming up in the game back in, you know all about it, in the 80s, when Bishop Mack was getting going in the 80s, you know, I didn't have anybody out there to really help me get through a lot of the bottlenecks that I was in. And I remember Bishop Mack gave me a credit card and say, look, you go to all these different ministers. At that time it was Jim Baker. You go down to PTL and you learn this business. You stay down there, you learn it, we come back. And we kind of all felt our way through it to learn this thing. And that started Miko Media. That's why I wanted to start helping churches bring the quality of their product up and let them know how important it is. We're in a sight and sound generation. If you don't perfect some of the qualities that you deliver your product to the audience with, delivered to television and however, your in-house services is not at a certain level, it's hard for people to comprehend that because we live in this sight and sound
It's hard for them to view something that's not well put together.
No.
So it's fabulous that you go in and you train people how to produce quality for their ministries.
That's
and
correct.
You've done some music video.
I've done videos with a lot of the secular side. We have done some behind the scenes stuff with Beyonce on her tour, and we've worked with Fred Hammond, Kurt Franklin, and Yolanda Adams. In terms of recordings and stuff like that. National Press Club with C-SPAN. Worked with conferences from the with TBN. A lot of the national networks as well. We've been involved in with the that side of the business. Now, Miko Media Filmworks is alive and well, and we work with Wake Media Films. We started that company with one of my clients, Wake Chapel Church.
And they're wanting to produce other positive movies. And
we're going to be producing a lot of positive films. We feel that we have a message about these young people that we need to get out there. And we also want to bring the young people in to let them, get them involved in what we're doing and help them to understand the importance of behind the camera.
Wow.
Because, most people see all the glamour that goes on in front of the camera, but that's far and beyond. I mean, there's not a lot of folks going to make that happen. But you can learn it and get the skill set to get behind the camera. And my experience has been, even from directing and producing all across the country, it's just not enough of African Americans in this business for me. And I'm not saying that Gateway of Hope only be working with African Americans.
Understood.
But we're going to be working with African American, Hispanics, and Caucasians, whites as well. So all races.
So very
involved.
diverse. Wonderful.
Very diverse. And we're not nothing I do is a black-oriented organization.
Got it.
None of that.
But as a black man, you know the hopelessness in the black community, and you just want to be that bridge.
Yes.
To give them, come this way. We have something positive you can do. You don't have to be in a gang. You don't have to do these things. So, can you share what's next with what
Great question.
What are some of your visions? You've
My
come out
vision-
of this fear and you're doing these
Yeah.
great things. I want to hear this.
Well, the thing about it is, I come out of that fear. I left my secular job at Nortel. Now it was Northern Telecom. Then I walked out of there with not a click on what I was going to be doing. I didn't have any fear with that because that fear was broken. Because at that point I was taking, the advantage of my life. I mean, I was taking not advantage. I was taking control of where I wanted to go.
Right.
So, in terms of, and then I worked in church ministry in Creedmoor for 13 years. And when I walked out of there, I didn't have a job. I had 2 girls in college. One was at the University of North Carolina, Pembroke. One was at ECU at that time.
And a beautiful wife that is well kept. We know how you keep Miss
Yes,
Janet.
and a hot wife.
Yes.
And so I walked out of there. I told her one day, I said, sweetheart, God has something else for me to do, and I got to go out on my own. And, she first looked at me, she's like, now, this is the second time he's done that. And he's done that at Nortel, now he's doing it here. And so when I walked away from that, by the grace of God, she trusted me. We become one on that. And God helped me start my company, and this film is the end result of that.
Well, we are so proud of this, and I am thanking you for coming and share this story.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that this will be a blessing to other people to understand just because you grew up in poverty, just because you had rejection, you cannot live that. When you get 21 years old, don't keep rehearsing the story. Excuses, but find a way to recap, face that fear, say no, make new mental thoughts and new mental patterns, and begin to take the pain of your own life to be a blessing to somebody else's life. And it's been a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.
And our topic was breaking and overcoming mental fear.
Yes.
And I think that you are a wonderful example of that. I'm looking forward to seeing more things that you're going to do. And we have to have you back.
Yeah, well...
We have to have you back. You got to come and share some more.
I didn't share a lot of the new projects because they're coming, but I can't expose them right now.
We won't. We can have you back.
Right, okay, cool.
We're connected. We can have you back. This is great.
Cool.
So you've been listening to Let's Talk with Felicia Jameson. We hope that you've enjoyed the show this evening. And our next show, we're going to be talking about breaking mental negative thought patterns, mental ruminations, and how we can help you break those cycles and patterns. I'm a certified healing coach, and I'm going to enjoy the things that we're going to do and talk about this season. So you've been listening to Let's Talk with Felicia Jameson. Our show guest was Willie Hodges.
Thank you.
We thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
An awesome segment.
Overcoming mental fear.
That's right.
We have all had it, and I was just so impressed with his life to see everything that he's gone through to overcome that, to identify it, to refuse fear, to reach his goals and his potential. How outstanding.
That was an awesome segment there, and how he kind of wrapped it up. I like how he said that he could recognize that joker coming from afar, and he didn't care how it was masked. He knew that was fear, and this is how he's going to deal with it.
And the fact that he stood back and he took a breath, so that he can recognize what it was, fear.
Yes, Felicia, who was your guest?
That was Sir Willie Hodges,
Okay.
and he's with Nico Media, and he actually does films, and he's working on positive films for youth. He's also doing something with youth to mentor them in filmmaking. So look at the journey of his life, all that he overcame from a boy, from a child, and now in his adult life, refusing that fear so that he can reach his potential, and not only reach his potential, but help other people reach theirs. So I just think how outstanding, and that is what I really wanted to give to our viewers tonight, not just to talk about what fear was, but to really see how you overcome it. And the
Yeah.
key thing he was saying was recognize it. And you can recognize it, as you heard him say, from a mile off. You know what it is, and just absolutely refusing it to continue to pursue your goals and pursue your dreams.
And it's
Yeah.
like you said to
Yeah.
him that everything that he feared in past prepared him for what he is today.
And to go to the theater and to see that movie that was produced was just outstanding. And he has a lot of other projects that he's working on now. And just such a people person. And to be honest, some of his story, I knew him for many years, but I never knew some of the stuff that he shared with us tonight. And that is just how far he came from that life that he was in. So there's no excuse for us to say, well, this is how I grew up, or this is what happened to me as a child, so for that reason, I'm going to stay like this for the rest of my life. No. We don't have to do that.
No.
But I also noticed that the fear that he had wasn't just from what he lived. It was from what he observed in other people's lives, like the woman who took care of him and how she was beaten in front of him. You know, those things are fearful to a child. So it wasn't just
and it gets it's in that child growing up in that environment, and those stresses and those factors begin to create other things exactly inside of that child that could go with them into their adulthood.
Yes.
And that's just very key to break those cycles in our home and in our children's lives. You know, to break that fear and not let them see the wrong examples in the home.
So, Felicia, where can people go to get help with overcoming fear?
Well, with overcoming fear, I think, number one, you need to talk about it, because fear sometimes it looks bigger than what it is, and then when you start to talk it out, going to a counselor, going to a healing coach, sometimes even just talking to a friend, just to get it out and get somebody else to give you another perspective on what you're feeling. And also with this segment, there's a little bit more to it, but we're going to have that on my social media page.
Okay, yes, because we didn't get to see the full interview, but Felicia Jamison is uploading that to her social media page, which is FeliciaJamison.com.
Yes.
Okay, and also we're going to have it on our YouTube, so you can subscribe there at MentorMe411.com and just click the archives button. But Felicia, we're going to wrap up this session right now, and we're looking forward to seeing you this new season. We know we got a whole different set of topics that you're going to be bringing to the table as well.
Absolutely, and we have weathered the storm in North Carolina, so remember the storms may come in your life, but they don't last.
Yes,
That's right.
girl.
Okay, so that kind of
Good for
wraps
you.
mental health session with Dr. Michelle and with Felicia Jamison. Next week, we're coming back with financial health. That is me, and I am bringing someone who appeared on Mentor Me Memorable Moments during the month of April and May. We're going to see Derry Perkinson, Wall Street, coming back, and he's going to be partnering with me on financial health. So between now and then, we want to say be smart, be safe, and be healthy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I wear my clothes like this because I can. And I wear my hair like this because I can. And I walk around like this because I can. And I do my thing like this because it's who I am. And if you're expecting me to give you an apology for being nothing that you're used to, just ain't hot. And if you expected me to give you an apology for being nothing like you used to, but don't ride on and hand away. Wait, hold your breath and concentrate. Keep going until your face turns blue. See my road, it ain't your road, but trust I know just where I'm going. In my flow, it ain't your flow, but trust I know just how I'm flowing. I'ma do my thing. So please feel free to hate and complain, 'cause I'ma do my thing. And say what you like, 'cause this one ain't gonna change. I'ma do my thing. You don't know where I'm going, and so you think I'm lost. I ain't on your page, okay, so to you that means I'm off. When I dance to the beat of a drummer you don't hit and you can't see. So if I look off beat to you, well, the problem must be you, not me. Irregular and never error